it is time for a conversation for a very special group of individuals. If you've just started earning, then this is the best time to listen to this conversation. And I only wish that I had listened to a conversation like this when I was at your age, if you're tuned in. Shweta Jain of Investography is joining in to help you out, because the advice that Shweta will give you is something that you will thank her for in at least 10 years' time. I can guarantee you. Shweta, thanks so much for taking the time. The beauty of being 21 years old, apart from having extremely high metabolism and looking probably the best that you will ever look in your life, is the fact that you have so much time on your hands. But having said that, there are a few objectives that you need to set for yourself, right? So before we get to those objectives, though, I want to ask you, when I was that age, I used to constantly complain about the fact that I didn't have enough money. How do you stress the importance of setting aside a little bit of money to get your financial life in order?
Hi, Alex. I think that's a great question to ask. So let me let you in on a little secret. Even when you get to my age, there's not enough money. So there is never enough money to save, and we always have more and more avenues to spend. As we move ahead in life, our lifestyle expenses increase, our aspirations increase. So it's always going to be the same, that there is never enough money. So for people who are just starting in, of course, other than the great things that they have time on their side, and they have the other advantage. They have the advantage of making mistakes where they can learn. For me, it becomes like a course fee when they start to learn investing at that age, because they have a little money. So what they're thinking as a disadvantage is actually a great advantage, because when you mess with a little money, or when you invest and you learn with a little money, even if you lose some of it, it's little money. So they have that advantage of making mistakes, and that they could consider as a course fee. So the sooner one starts investing, the sooner one starts learning, and the lesser they'll have to pay in course fee, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. I wish I had paid my course fee. But having said that, let's talk about the objectives, because there are a few things that you should hit. And I'm guessing contingency fund is one of those things. How do you order them in terms of priority, though?
So I think when one starts earning, one of the natural things is to look at spending. And as contradicting as it may sound, to invest better, one needs to spend better. So they have to make sure that they're, making their budgets, sticking to their budgets. So I think one of the first things that they should get in order is their spending pattern, because this is the time when they're establishing that as well. So it could go out of hand. So the sooner they get that in control, I think the financial life gets better and better from there. Otherwise, they end up having a big baggage. Emergency fund is definitely one of those things, a contingency fund, where they have to make sure that this is one of the first things that they build on, for the simple reason that life is a little uncertain at various stages. And at this stage, it is quite uncertain as well, because a lot of them want to study, a lot of them want to maybe take a sabbatical. Some of us are still figuring out what career to sort of stick to. So an emergency fund tops the priority here. So making sure that they start dedicating or allocating some money every month, because they would need like a 3 to 6 months emergency fund at least, and which is 3 to 6 months of expenses. So that itself could be a lot, where you're saying, I'm hardly getting enough to save. That itself could be a lot. So little by little, and when I say little, it could be even 500 rupees, it could be 1,000 rupees, whatever they can start setting aside that, because that is the most important thing at this point. Of course, then come the other goals, whether it's term insurance, whether it's tax savings, all of those come later down in priority. But this is the first thing that they need to get in order. So they could start off by allocating little by little. And when they get into this habit, so a few months later, they can automate this. I think automation is one of the best things that they can do to themselves, because we need to save our money not just from everything else, but from ourselves as well. Otherwise, we end up spending it. So move these funds to an emergency fund, sort of liquid fund or an FD. So I'm not a big fan of FDs here because this tends to become a habit, and we are habit forming years here, formative years. So I'm not really a fan of FD in that sense. It's fine if they're feeling comfort with an FD as a product. So I'm okay with that, as long as they're aware that, this should not be my habit. So then it's okay. So a little bit of in FD, a little bit in a liquid mutual fund, and they're off to a great start.
Great. I learned this very late. I read a book that suggested that I keep a separate account for investments and transfer a certain percentage of my salary as soon as I got it into that account. And that account, being investment account, is not a spending account. And so I can't, swipe the debit card. In fact, I don't know where the debit card is. I shouldn't be saying that, but I don't know where the debit card is. Having said that, what you were pointing out is very, very important, right? Is that people get the feeling that they have a few, maybe 500 rupees, 1,500 rupees that they have left over. What can I achieve by saving this? Is that the biggest misconception that people can have, and what can you achieve, Shweta, by investing that?
So it is actually, because we think that it's small money, it's just 500. What will happen with that, but small gets big. That is something that you should remember. And you're going to give it time. So if you're going to give it time, it's only going to grow and it is going to compound. So that's something that you should remember. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. This 500 rupee is that one step. If you're not moving forward, you're going to keep moving backward, right? So if you're not going to save this 500 rupees, you're going to spend it, and you're going to end up taking loans, EMIs, and all of that. If you're going to get into the habit of spending, you see little by little how it's adding up. So on 500 rupees, you may see at some point that you've made maybe 20 rupees. And I have seen that in my portfolio, to be honest. And I've said, this is just parking money, there's not even parking money. So what am I going to do with this? And then the next month, another 500 adds up, and another 20 adds up, and another 1,000 adds up. So it just adds up from there. It's fascinating to see your money grow. So the kick that you get with getting those parcels home by shopping, or those shopping bags, you could get a really interesting feeling, a happy feeling, once you start to see your money grow as well.
Very quickly, now it comes to the point of the fact that a lot of young people focus on tax saving more than investing. Is there a way to combine the two that you can recommend? ELSS is something that people suggest for the long term.
Oh, definitely. I think ELSS is a great start to somebody who's just starting investing, who's just started earning, because it encourages absolutely the right kind of behavior, equities for long term. So at least there's a lock-in of 3 years. You get tax saving benefit. You're investing in equity, which is a growth asset. Otherwise, you going to end up either saving in a savings bank account or an FD. So you're not going to really do anything about it. So this is a growth asset for long term. There's a lock in. You're not going to constantly look at removing money if the market moves a little up. So I think that's a great way to start. The other thing I usually do tell people to open a PPF account, but allocate money for the long term, because this is one of the best debt products that are available for long term. And we do tend to think very short term. So some bit in a PPF, I really like that as a diversification as well. But small amounts, I would allocate more to an ELSS right from the beginning.
Question, which is, they're at a stage of their career where they grow exponentially in the first few years, right? So how do you increment your savings?
I think you have to make sure that you're first allocating your increments to saving, and then increasing your lifestyle, because the alternate is just it's just a little scary, because even before you get these increments, and I've seen this a lot of times, even before you get that bonus in hand, the money is already spent. You just know that that bonus is going to come next month, and the money is already spent this month. You know that increment is going to come at the end of the month, and you're already spending that. today. So I think you have to make sure that you're allocating this towards savings. So automate that process. So before you increase your lifestyle expense, I think allocate that to your savings to make sure that you are actually going in the right direction. It's really easy to increase expenses. It's really, really difficult to cut down on those.
Fair point. Step up SIP might be a good idea to consider. Thank you so much for taking the time, Shweta. Pleasure speaking with you.